Welcome to Cyber Back to School session number 3, how to keep your security posture compliant while maintaining your security controls with infrastructure as a code. And it's going to be my favorite tool here, Azure Bicep. That's I'm going to dive a little bit into that. But before that, we want to talk about security controls in Azure and how those controls can help your infrastructure. Before starting this session, I want to say a big thank you to organizers and the sponsor of this event, especially to Dwayne, as he solo-handedly, run this event for the community. I also want to say a big thank you to all the viewers who will spend some time watching it and learning about Azure security and how to apply the infrastructure as a code or get into that phase where you have security as a code structure in your environment. And extra thanks to again all the learners who will be checking my GitHub repo and as well as LinkedIn profile that I will share. So in this session, again, I'm going to aim to provide you a dive into managing security controls and maintaining compliance in your Azure environment using infrastructure as a code with Azure Bicep. And in this session, it is tailored for you toward new learners, to students, cloud engineers, architects, and security professionals who are interested in automating and enhancing their security posture in Azure. I hope this excites you and you will learn how to enhance your security and compliance skills in Azure with Bicep within the next 30 to 40 minutes. So buckle up, take up your drink, let's go. This is a bit of information about myself, Elhan, and also known as Cloud Marathoner in the community. I'm a frequent community speaker on events, and I have been MCT for the last 17 years. And I still counting to help my students with Microsoft Azure and Microsoft technologies. I'm recognized multiple times as a Microsoft MVP and very honored to be recognized in Azure category for my contributions to the tech community over the past 7 years. I'm also founder of the Cloud Marathoner blogging site and as well as the Cloud Marathoner hashtag on LinkedIn that I hope you already subscribed and follow. And the main idea is that Cloud Marathoner movement is to aim to share the cloud learning journey roadmap and steps to focus toward building your automation journey in the cloud. In addition, I'm active core member of the Cloud Launch and Learn team and actively moderate and as well as speak within the Cloud Family community events. That's enough about myself. Let's look what we will be covering today. So first, we will start with the defining security controls in Azure on a 3,000 foot level and understanding the security services and controls that you have. We will look into compliance in Azure and what are the controls of compliance and governance. And then we'll look into what is the new infrastructure as a code language Bicep that will help you to basically write down your security as a code instead of using the ClickUps. And then you will look into security. We will look into actual demos of security controls with Azure Bicep language. And finally, we will look into some demos and references to help you get some insights and get going with the code that's already created on my GitHub repo, and I will share that with you. All right. So before diving into the first point, which is security controls in Azure, let me give you a brief introduction about T-Rex Solutions, a company where I'm employed that have new open positions for people who might be looking for new opportunities to advance their career. So T-Rex Solutions is a mid-sized company located in East Coast DMV area, which is Virginia, DC, and Maryland here in the East Coast. And we have headquarters in Bethesda, Maryland. This year, our company celebrates 25th anniversary and the continuous growth on contracts where mission-critical systems are modernized and delivered to our customers. We have a number of federal, civilian, and Intel customers that we are serving, and we help them with mission-critical workloads and processes to succeed. One of the largest implementations that we succeeded to do is for the US Census Bureau, where my colleagues and I actively worked on important challenges for the census. In addition to that, we have a number of different agencies that you see on the slide. I'm not going to go through each of them. I want to just mention that T-Rex have strong relationship with CSPs, with cloud solution providers, and look forward for cloud and data engineers to join the growing team on a number of contracts that we have in place. So we also have T-Rex Cares. That's an organization which plays important role locally in the area by supporting undeserved youth, veterans, and local organizations. So let me say again, T-Rex is hiring. Uh, Basically, the company where I work is hiring, and you are welcome to check the open positions and apply. Also, you may message me directly on LinkedIn or any other means if you have any questions on this topic. All right, that said, let's move to our first thing, which is security controls in Azure, and let's review what we have by these services. Again, this is going to be a high-level introduction into most of the services that you need to be aware about, where security controls are in place. And let's consider these different security controls that are available in Azure and how they contribute to your overall secure posture. So first, as you might know, Microsoft Azure offers a comprehensive set of security controls to help protect your workloads and data. So the first one, of course, is going to be Identity and Access Management, IAM. And with IAM, it controls access to resources based on user identity, ensuring only authorized users can access specific resources. Next, we have security monitoring and alerting. This is a combination of cloud services that provide continuous monitoring and real-time alerts to detect and respond to security threats. Then, of course, when we speak about security controls, we should always mention network security as it plays a very critical role. And with network security, it provides one of the core security services that is combined under software-defined virtual network, the virtual VNet. As you know, we have a number of tools and services like Azure Firewall, virtual network peering, and virtual network related components. We have network security groups where we want to check the inbound and outbound rules to make sure they are compliant. We also have application security groups and many other services that secure your network infrastructure in Azure environment. Then once we consider networking security, let's look at data protection. So data protection is the next important layer in your defense in depth concept that you might be aware from CS 900 presentation, cyber back to school sessions. And what it does is basically data protection protects your data from malicious actors. There are a number of ways to provide secure data protection, and of course, with data protection, we have to have a strong encryption, right? And then we need to make sure that our backups are working and in place. We also need to make sure that replication services that play a core role in protecting data, um, the data is replicated and it is also secure in rest and transit. In addition to that, I want to mention that part of your disaster recovery strategy also needs to be in place. So don't think just about data protection and encryptions and backup, but also your business continuity and disaster recovery strategy needs to be in place. I think it's also very important. Next, we have application security. Built-in security features are provided to applications such as Azure Service Environments, ACE. We also have Azure Web Apps and other services. There is a robust suite of tools called Microsoft Defender, and Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is a comprehensive endpoint security solution designed to help organizations detect, investigate, and respond to advanced threats. Next, we have compliance and governance, which is also a very important tool There are a number of those tools to help you meet regulatory requirements and manage compliance across your Azure digital estate. We will dive deep into this subtopic in the next few minutes to inform you more about that. So that's why I'm putting it a separate thing here for this. And finally, threat intelligence. The threat intelligence comes with integration of your services with Microsoft Defender for Cloud to provide deeper insight and threat intelligence. There's also some other services like Microsoft Sentinel that does a bit more of uh, that does more comprehensive service in providing the hunting on threats and as well as unifying the threat intelligence in one place. But that's not the scope of this presentation. We are going to be focused more on compliance and governance and how to bring your security configurations and controls to be defined as a code. Again, these security controls overall that you see on the display are designed to provide a multi-layered security approach, helping you protect against evolving threats and maintain compliance with industry standards. Now, as mentioned in this slide, let's look more deeper into compliance and governance services in Azure. All right, so compliance and governance in Azure are crucial for ensuring that your cloud environment follows the regulatory requirements and internal policies of the company. And let's look at some key components of it. First, of course, we need to start with Azure policy that helps you to create, assign, and manage policies that enforce rules on your resources. These policies ensure that your resources stay compliant with corporate standards and service level agreements. For example, you can enforce tagging for resources, restrict regions for deployed resources, and set audit that will look into important features that deviate from baseline configurations. For example, with those audits, you may define how much your infrastructure is compliant with different compliance services. For example, if you need FedRAMP moderate environment to run your infrastructure, there are certain policies that you can inherit from Azure policy, apply them and see how they work. If you have certain tagging related policies in your environment, you can do the again enforce them using the Azure definition and Azure policy assignments. I will talk more about that and we'll have a demo on this. Next, we have Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Again, as mentioned in previous slide, this tool provides a unified view of security across your Azure digital estate. It collects, searches, and analyzes the security data from different sources, including the firewalls. It also provides actionable security recommendations to fix issues before they can be exploited by the malicious actors in the web. Next, we have Azure Security Benchmark that you may probably heard before. It offers a guidance for ensuring a coherent security strategy and documented governance approach. It includes establishing roles and responsibilities, defining enterprise segmentation strategies, and as well as implementing data protection strategies. Next, we have compliance reporting, and Azure provides tools for compliance and reporting on external security requirements and internal policies. This reports ensures that you meet those regulatory requirements and manage compliance uh, those compliance across your Azure environments with ease. And finally, we have governance and protection disciplines that we need to adhere in our day-to-day operations. And governance teams provide that oversight and monitoring to sustain and improve security posture over time. You can also use the secure score or secure number in your Azure environment, kind of see the progress and where you are at the moment. Those compliance reports, uh, are required by regulatory bodies, as you know. It can be an ATO process or 3PO process that runs in your environment. and that help you to ensure that security efforts focus on important matters for your organization. Now, let's consider one of the recommended tools in Azure implementing security as a code, right? And namely, we will talk about my favorite infrastructure as a code language, Azure Bicep. Let's look what is Azure Bicep language and what makes it special, so to speak. So, first of all, what is Azure Bicep? Azure Bicep is a new declarative domain-specific language for provisioning the Azure resources. And the purpose of Azure Bicep is very simple, right? The purpose is to simplify the creation and management experience with of the infrastructure code with cleaner syntax and more code reuse. This new language aims to make it easier to write infrastructure as a code for developers, uh, DevOps engineers, and anyone who typically involved in creation of those infrastructure code pieces. For example, traditional one was ARM templates or Azure Resource Manager templates. Uh, but in terms of the good thing is that this Azure Bicep as a language, it's another transparent abstraction over ARM layer, Azure Resource Manager layer, and as well as the ARM templates. And we'll look into examples where you can get better understanding. This language simplifies the way of authoring the Azure resources, namely to define your Azure resources as a code and as well as maintain them. Then it's again, it's a transpiled. At the end of the day, it's get transpiled into the standard ARM templates. So whatever you can do with your ARM templates in the past, you can do this everything that you can accomplish with ARM templates in Bicep. But in addition to that, anything that's has been done in last, I would say, a year and a half, there are new developments in Azure resources which rely more to make, which always try to make sure that whatever you create and maintain as an infrastructure, it's easy. It could be easily done on Azure Bicep as well. All right, that's it. Let's look at the relationship between Azure Bicep and ARM, which is the Azure Resource Manager layer. Again, we are not talking about ARM templates. This is the layer of ARM Azure Resource Manager that is, so basically we are talking about this piece here, which governs the access and security and and every API call that's coming to the Azure actually is filtering through that layer. So Azure Bicep works, as we said, as an abstraction layer that's built over ARM layer of Azure and ARM templates. All resource types that you have in Azure, they come with their API versions and properties that are valid in ARM template, which are also have equally valid properties and values in Azure Bicep. Anything that we can do with Azure ARM templates is doable with Azure Bicep, as it provides this transparent abstraction over ARM, the Azure Resource Manager. And when you look at ARM template and as well as the Azure Bicep language, think about that the ARM templates are actually a templating engine, while where you can declare your resource using JSON declaration. But with Azure Bicep language, it is the way to define your Azure resources that look and feel like a code, because you basically code your definition of the Azure resources with Bicep. So let's look into an example, right, so that it can be more clear to everyone how to use them efficiently. So I'm going to bring here the Visual Studio now. Okay, so this is the basically I'm in my repo, GitHub repo. The repo name is Learn Bicep. So this is the Azure Bicep repo that I'm managing, and I have some interesting projects here. If we scroll down, and you can always, you are always welcome to visit my GitHub page here. And if you navigate to Azure Bicep. We have awesome Azure Bicep that has a number of resources that you might find helpful for you. So check this out. It's managed by community members, MVPs and MCTs, and it's a great resource to start your Azure Bicep infrastructure as a code journey there. And as well as we have Learn Bicep. So from Learn Bicep, all the examples and tagging examples, and as well as the ARM template examples, you can get it from there. I'll be talking more about from this repo, so everything that I show will be available there. Okay, that said, let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. So this is that same page that I show, Learn Bicep. So just to be sure, here's if you go to Learn Bicep, this should be the same look and feel as you see here. So here in this page, this is the README page, which I'm going to close. What we are going to do, we'll look at CLI options of Azure Bicep. So first time, when you never did any Azure Bicep development before, I would say you need to go first and make sure that you have Bicep extension installed. So here's the Bicep extension. Okay, so this is the Bicep extension. You want to make sure it's installed. It will be a game changer in your infrastructure as a code provisioning, and as well as the working with the code. So first, I highly recommend to install this extension. So once you have this extension, next thing to do here is, let me go back to the terminal. So you can always go and create, access your terminal using this Visual Studio Code navigation here on the top. There's also a shortcut. So once you are there, first thing you want to check that you have Azure Bicep installed. So if you type AZ Bicep, it should tell you what's the version and if that exists or it doesn't exist in your environment. So as you see, I get the error because I didn't put it correct. So let's correct this. AZ Bicep version. All right, so it should give us the version. And okay, here's the version. Next, if you want to get more familiar with the syntax, you can always say Azure Bicep and look into the help to all the commands that are available through the CLI. Here they are. Of course, you can also list through the versions by going and running the of course, you can go and look into the list version here. This is the command that you can run to see what are the latest versions, and any other command that's here. So let's just, for the sake of running this command, let's run it. Azure Bicep list versions. Let's make sure that I don't do any typos here. So now we run this command and we should see a list of versions that's coming up, and we are of course going to have the latest installed. That's why it's there. And next, what we are going to do is we are going to create a sample file. So here under the modules here, right? So I have a number of them. We are going to create a brand new Azure Bicep simple file, and then we'll compare that to the ARM template, because that's where we were trying to compare ARM templates with Azure Bicep. So here, if I right click and I create a new file, I will call it demo cyber back to school, right? That's what we are doing. And it should have .bicep extension. So this basically nothing is there. So let's first create the storage account. So if you want to create storage account and use the snippets that are available here, you can type res and then after dash just storage. So as you see here, let me make it a bit longer. So I typed res, which stands for resources. Then you can choose the storage and then look here to the snippets. So here, when we look at the, you would see on the right side, there's actually a nice overview of what you should expect to be created. So let's, create first storage account here using the snippets. So I'm going to do the same thing that I showed you, storage, and then once you press on tab, you should get this resource storage account. And here, as you see, it defines a type of the provider, which is Microsoft Storage. Then we have the storage accounts, that's the name of service, and then we have the API, which is pointing to this API here. You can always change the API, but again, we are not going to dive into that. Then you can put the name for your storage account, which is defined here, and of course you can parameterize that, which will look in our demo that has it already in place. Then you can define location. You can either define a parameter for that. You can also type, for example, East US2 here as a location, or you can inherit the location from your resource group. For example, if you use the resource group function and then get the location out of it, it will grab it from the resource group where your resource is going to be created. And then you define the properties of your resource. And that's it. That's pretty much the simplest you can go with that. And then once we have this file, and let's say you want to compare it to ARM template, you have a couple of options. You can right click and say build ARM template, which will create the ARM template from your Bicep code. And here it is. So if I make this, let's make it, split the screens here, split to the right. Okay, so here as you see, we have, so let me split to the right, rephrase. So here we'll split to the right. As you see now, if we remove this, we have comparison between Bicep code, which is very compact and minimal in terms of what we wrote there. And then on the right side, we have representation of that in ARM template, which starts with metadata that provides where it was generated through, the schema, the version, and then the type of the resource, the API version, and naming are going to be the same that we see on the left side. So as you see from this small comparison, it is much compact to write your code in Azure Bicep, and especially when you are going to use the modularization and use the modules, it's going to be even bigger difference in terms of the number of codes that you have to maintain. So anyway, so in this example, what we did, I'm going to delete this JSON file for now because it was a lot of clicking here. I usually don't like ClickUp, so I recommend to use the command line tool. In our case, I'm going to switch to terminal, and the same operation of creating ARM template we will use using the command line. To do that, you will just have to come and type Azure Bicep, and then we will define the build command, Azure Bicep build, and then we need to define the file from which Bicep file we want to build our ARM template. In this case, it is located in modules, right? And it is starting with Bicep, then let's see, it's actually starting with demo dash cyber back to school. So once we press on enter, what happens behind the scene is that a ARM template is going to be built based on the Bicep field that we have here. So as you see, there's a linter as well, which I'm not going to dive now, but basically you get your ARM template built here. Okay, and it is same thing as we did with the GUI, but this time we use the command line interface. All right, I think that's kind of good intro into that. Let's look into other security resources that you can actually manage and create with Azure Bicep. So there are a number of resources. I'm not going to go through each of them, but security related resources, when we talk about them, of course, it's about the resource logs to make sure that you have do not delete or read only logs on your resources. You can accomplish that, and I will show you an example where you can do that. You have Azure policies to enforce governance across your resources and Azure digital estate. You have Azure firewall, and you can create Azure firewall rules and manage them as security as a code. We have data protection that you can do, and as well as the other services that we mentioned, including the observability, login, and monitoring and auditing. All right, that's it. Let's jump into the demo now, and our first demo will be defining the security policies. In this case, I will show you the Azure policies and how you can get the benefit by defining your Azure policy, and as well as creating the assignment. into your Azure environment. So let's switch back to the Visual Studio Code here. All right, I'm going to close all these, close all others. So here we are going to navigate to the, I'm going to make sure that it's all taken out from here. So modules. So I'm going to navigate to the samples folder here in the same repository. And then we are going to navigate to the sample 4-deploy. So what this file does is it basically defines a Azure policy, right? So it defines Azure policy on a subscription level as it is defined here. And then I put the description that it's going to basically enforce a policy on your Azure subscription by saying that there are 4 eligible regions where you can deploy your resources, and then it will enforce the you can either audit them, meaning that you are not going to enforce that, or you can deny any new creation or update of the resources if they are not compliant with those 4 Azure regions that are displayed in your Azure definition. So once we define our Azure definition here, next thing is to make sure that you have an assignment. So if you want to deploy and assign that definition right away, then you need to create a policy assignment resource as well, which will take your existing location policy and list of allowed locations, and then it will go and basically enable that for you. And as you see, it's using all these parameters that are coming with the deployment of your resource. So when you take this resource and deploy it, it usually takes 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes to get deployed. So I did that just before this demo actually, to make sure that we don't have to wait for it. And what we have here is that once you deploy that, on my subscription, what you should be able to see, depending on what type of name you will give to the deployment, because you have that flexibility. Under the assignments, you will see that I have this restrict locations for Azure resources. But if you want to pick up any other actually Azure definition and then apply the assignment, you can always go to definitions and then you can pick one from here. As you see, there are policy initiatives as well available and other things. But let's say if you want to look at tagging policy and only those that have tag related information, as you see, there's a number of them here. So one of those is actually that get assigned to subscription is restricting location for Azure resources. And if you want to see how well or bad your subscription is doing with certain policy, you can go to the overview page here. Let me make it bigger. And then you can see track the compliance. So as you see, I have good compliance with this restricting the creation of my resources in given regions, but I don't have other ones. So again, in this case, I'm denying anything that's not created within those 4 regions, which are located in East US and as well as West US Azure regions. So to see that in action, let's go to one of the resource groups within my subscription. So now I switched into a resource group which is created under the same subscription. So the resource group name is Monitoring East US. And as you see here, I have some resources. They are all in East US or global. So let's create another resource here and see the effect of our policy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to create for a fast demo, I'm going to create a storage account using the Azure Marketplace. And once we go and click on create, let's see what happens. You see here, if I select here West US, just West US 2, and then put the name here, Cyber Demo Storage 0923 to make it unique. As you know, there's a unique requirement when you are creating your storage account name and you need to be compliant. And here, as you see, there's no warning. But if I choose a different Azure region here, for example, Asia Pacific, Korean South, because it's not defined in my policy and I'm enforcing this, you would get this, warning here right away, saying that, hey, wait, you are deploying this, but there's a restriction location for Azure resources. There's a policy basically that doesn't allow. You can always click. Let's go to the second demo. So second demo is about deploying storage account with don't delete lock security control. So to do that, you can navigate to the if you go and navigate back to our Visual Studio Code. This time I'm going to navigate to the example number 3 here, which creates storage account with lock. And if you look at the code here, you would see that it's basically, again, it starts on the subscription level where we deploy first a resource group, and then we define a region where we want to deploy it. And after that, you have resource group itself created as a logical container. And then we have a module, which is the storage parameter module that get actually deployed into the same resource group here, right? That's what we see. Let me delete this. All right, so if you navigate to this module, which is storage with parameter, if you click and navigate there, you would see that this is much more robust resource that have description, a number of allowed variables and parameters that define the storage name. It has more validation here on the name of the storage account to make sure whoever is using your modules, they are actually they are going to create a resource, a storage account resource that actually has a compliant naming and restrictions of the name lengths on the storage account. And as well as there's a geo redundancy and as well as other resources here that get the values, including the Azure region that's deriving from your resource group. And then of course in this example we create the storage account. And if you look at that, it's the same example that we show. It's bare minimum, but has much more parameters involved. And then we use the Microsoft, we use the logs, Azure logs, which are part of this Microsoft authorization namespace, where we define cannot delete log on top of this same storage account that we define here. And then, of course, after you deploy that, you can have output parameters. In our case, it's a blob endpoint and storage ID that you see here. So again, to deploy this, what you need to do is you can always navigate to the scripts that I have here under the scripts folder, and then you would see that you can use any of this, you can use this deployment script here to go and deploy this resource using the file where your actual deployment is, and you want to create that as a subscription, deploy these resources, the resource group, and as well as storage, and it's logged into the subscription. Here, if you need some help, you can also use this code where you can define a login to your Azure CLI, and as well as set up, if you have a number of subscriptions, choose the one that you need to have. If you have only one subscription, then you don't have to run this setup subscription part. You can look into your groups, you can create again your storage account and all that's needed for this. Okay, before going deep dive into that, let me also show you something with this example where we have defined the resource group, storage account, and as well as the lock for that storage account. There's a nice feature called Azure Bicep Visualizer. It's here on the right top. So if you click on that, let's click on that. Okay, and then remove the rest. So you will see that what this visualization does is that it's going to tell us, let me actually make it a bit bigger. So it will tell us that, hey, there's a resource group that's going to be created on this Azure Bicep file. and then there will be in this resource group, you will have a storage account that will have a lock on that storage account. So that's a very good visualization. And to show the power of that, whenever you are dealing with new code base and you trying to visualize and understand that, let me show a bit more. Uh, Another example here where we are deploying resources and there are a number of them. And if you look at this, the example number 7 dash deploy modules with parameter that use the parameterization to deploy. So on this example, if you look at visualizer, you would see that we have much more resources here, and each of them give you some good understanding in terms of what are the resources in your Azure Bicep file, where they get deployed, what are the resource groups. So you get this good visualization and understanding of what to expect. All right, that's it. You can always, make it better. I believe my screen wasn't as, let me actually, so here you can actually fit to the page, but this is basically the view that you get, which has, again, a number of different resources, including the virtual machines, components that your virtual machine needs to have, and other resources. All right, that said, let's move to the next one, which is let's look into resources. And we finished our demo, so let's look at some resources that might be very helpful for you to get started. So this is the QCR code on Learn Bicep GitHub, the repo that we used during the demo for this session. And then you have some Azure Bicep videos here that are available on LinkedIn platform. And then we have the Bicep project itself, the official project, and as well as another set of great resources to learn about Bicep called Awesome Bicep GitHub. All right, I hope these resources are going to be helpful for you. Let's look at the applied skills. So applied skills is another great resource when you are trying to learn about security. So if you want to go here and type applied skills Microsoft Azure and land on this page, you can just type here secure, and you will see that there are available modules that you can use right away, like securing your storage account or network. So I highly recommend them as a tool to learn from. Next, if you don't have Azure subscription and you never actually used a free trial, you can start with the free trial, and then you can use always free 40 plus Azure resources that are available for you. Next, so if you have any questions, again, please get back to me. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn through the messaging, or you can also use the Twitter X. So what we have covered in this session: first, we start with security controls in Azure. Then we looked into compliance and governance controls in Azure. Then we moved into defining how you can make security as a code in Azure. One of the tools we consider the Azure Bicep language. Then we looked into security controls with Azure Bicep. And then we had a couple of demos with resources that you can use for your to continue your learning journey, applying the security controls as a code into your Azure environment. That said, we come to the end of our session. I want to say thank you everyone for being with me on this session. And I want to say thank you to organizers of Cyber Back to School event. I hope this was valuable session for you, and I hope to see you on my next presentation from Cloud Marathoner. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.